When it comes to Latin American cuisine, there is no other place like Colombia. This country has flavors you won't find in any of the neighboring countries in South or Central America. From local breakfast nooks to roadside restaurants serving the most unique dishes you can find, you'll find that the food is as unique as the customs and the people from region to region. So over the next 24 hours, I'm going to travel across Colombia by car, by plane, and by boat, from the mountain regions of the west to the bustling capital of Bogota. Then down to the state of Amazonas to the town of Leticia in the extreme south in a region known as the Three Frontiers to explore how varied Colombian cuisine is from one region of this country to the next. And we begin our Colombian foodie tour right where we left off in the previous video, here in the western town of Melgar. I'm Dave Kaufman, and this is Dave Kaufman Eats the World. They say breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and here in Western Colombia, I may have found the most unique breakfast I've had anywhere in the world. Here, in a small locally owned restaurant, I was introduced to Colombian Tamales Tolamense. I was soon to learn that there is no better way to start your day than with one of these hearty, stick-to-your-ribs breakfasts. So this is a little Colombian town called Melgar. It's not really little, it's a pretty big town, but it's about 2.5 hours southwest of Colombia unless there's traffic, and then you're 12 hours southwest of Colombia. But this right here is a traditional breakfast, and it is a Colombian tamale. And if you live in Mexico or the United States, we all know what a tamale is. This is actually really different than those tamales. It's cooked in these banana leaves, but the tamale itself isn't as compact as Mexican tamales. It's really loose, but we've got surprises in here. We've got hard-boiled eggs, we've got chicken, we've got different kinds of vegetables, we've got pork, we've got carrots. It's all mixed together in this tamale, and this is served with a little piece of bread and some white cheese. And this is a traditional Colombian breakfast we're gonna try out here. I'm gonna try just the tamale part first. We're gonna try this out. Wow, I've had tons of tamales. Nothing like this before. It's nice, it's fluffy, it's airy, and it's very savory. It's very delicious. And I can see why this is a traditional Colombian breakfast. Let's try a piece with some chicken. That chicken is nice and firm, nice and plump. I don't think this is made out of the same corn that we're used to making tamales in North America from, and as a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure that it's not. And therefore, it really has a much different, much more savory, less sweet flavor. And here we have a big piece of pork skin in there. You can definitely see how crispy that pork skin looks. Nice big pork belly in there. We're gonna try this out. Super juicy, lots of fat. Fat isn't bad, sugar is bad. That's why I get a lot of it in my coffee. We're gonna try out a little piece of bread with cheese here. I was just told this cheese is like farmer's cheese. It's called campesino here. Campesino here. Campesino. I'm learning Spanish and food at the same time. We're gonna give this a try. So first of all, that bread is fantastic. It's nice, it's airy, and it's really delicious. But the cheese is really creamy, and together with the bread, that is a delicious accompaniment to this tamale. So this is basically a typical breakfast here in Colombia. From here, we're gonna drive back to Bogota. We're gonna get lunch along the way. But for now, I'm gonna finish off this tamale. This is absolutely delicious. Saying goodbye to Melgar, we headed northeast once again on our way to the capital city of Bogota. The streets in Colombia are polka dotted with roadside restaurants, each one a little bit more different than the next, but each one serving platefuls of Colombian cuisine that is unique to the area they are found in. And in this place, I was introduced to one of the most popular dishes in the country, lechona, which greeted us at the door as we walked in. So we are at the luncheonera La Legitima Restaurante. I know all of those words except that last one, restaurante. Not sure what that means. But here we are going to try the lechona, and it comes in 3 sizes. And that is not $22,000. That is ding. So this is our friend Maldonado, and he is showing us around Colombia. You've taken us to this restaurant. I mean, it's a cool little roadside restaurant. So what are we about to eat here?
Lechona.
Lechona.
Kind of like a stuffed pig. They take the pig, they empty out all the guts and stuff like that.
Well, I hope, yeah.
They fill it with rice and different things. And they let it cook in its own juices in an oven. And you're gonna eat basically all the rice it has been with the pork juices, stuff like that. It's got a good taste. A little greasy,
yeah.
It was a little fatty, not for skinny people, not for people trying to lose weight.
And that just happened right by our table. Okay. So right here we have lechones, and this is one of the typical dishes that you're going to find in this part of Colombia, maybe all over Colombia. I don't know, haven't been all over Colombia yet. But basically, this is a big pile of shredded pork, fresh from the pig over there. And then we've got arepas, and then this brown congealed gravy looking thing is actually made out of sweet corn. So I'm really interested to try that. We're gonna dig in, and I'm just gonna try out this pork just by itself here. There's all these nice chickpeas thrown in there. All right, we're gonna try this out. So there's not a whole lot of flavor to it. You taste definitely that pork flavor, but in the States, we would douse this thing with so much barbecue sauce or something like that to kind of augment that pork flavor. This by itself, you really taste those flavors coming out, and it's really tender, it's really juicy. You can taste all the fat kind of mixing in with that meat. But on top, we have this nice piece of pork skin. It's nice and crispy. We're gonna try this out. So the pork skin is nice and crispy, a little hard to chew because it's so crispy. Doesn't really have a lot of flavor to itself. So I'm gonna set that aside. We're gonna try the arepas. It's nice, it's light, it's kind of airy. We're gonna give this a try. So the texture is kind of like a potato. There's really not a lot of flavor to it. I think what people do is they probably cut this up, mix this all together. I'm trying it piece by piece just to sample all those flavors. Next, we're gonna try the isusu. It basically looks like congealed gravy, but I don't think this is gonna taste like congealed gravy. All right, let's give this a try. There's the flavor. Wow, that is really sweet, and it's really compact. The texture is kind of like that skin that you get on the top of the pudding, like that thick. I think, again, what people do is they kind of mix this all together to get all those flavors in there. But I really wanted to try this dish here in Western Colombia because this is one of the traditional dishes you're gonna find here in these roadside restaurants here in this part of Colombia. This whole dish is very unique, very delicious, and very Colombian. Once back on the road, climbing ever higher in elevation, we were trying to get to Bogota before nightfall. Here in this part of the world, there is a constant 12 hours of daylight, 12 hours of night, every day of the year. And we had a long drive still to go if we wanted to get there before the evening traffic began, which could delay us for hours. But once we arrived, we found a vibrant city that explodes with activity. Bogota is the third highest capital in South America, and in the world, actually. It's 2,640 meters or 8,660 feet above sea level. And of course, I wanted to find the most typical dish here in the city, and I was told that I must try a dish called perreada. And we found that in what may be the quirkiest little restaurant in the city, Burger Stone. Once you walk in, you're transported right back to the rainforest, but with chimps and a T-Rex. Seriously, who wouldn't want to consume a massive amount of meat while a T-Rex licks its chops just feet away? This place was pretty awesome and not at all what I expected to find in the city. So after about 5 hours of getting through traffic to get about 2 kilometers, we have finally arrived in Bogota. Okay, so fine, maybe it took us a half hour. But the point is, we've arrived here in Bogota at one of the quirkiest little restaurants probably in this city. This is like a rainforest cafe, but Bogota style. So this dish is a typical Colombian dish that you can find here in Bogota. This is called perreada. And it's like a personal sampling of all the different meats that they have here. We've got sausage links, we've got chicken breast, we've got steak, we've got pork chop, and it's got pork with barbecue sauce. We've got fried plantains over here and a big pile of French fries. This is all meant for one person. And I could probably do this. I could probably eat this. I'm a big guy. I'm a hungry guy. I could probably eat this all. And this entire dish with all of these meats, French fries, fried plantains, and a bottle of water was less than $7 US. We're gonna start with the pork with barbecue sauce. Wow, that is such a rich, meaty flavor. The barbecue sauce isn't overwhelming, just a hint of that spice from that barbecue sauce. This is delicious. We are moving on to the sausage, otherwise known as chorizo here in Bogota, and I'm sure other places, but they call it chorizo here as well. All right, here we go. Let's try out this sausage. That casing just snaps, just like a good sausage should. The inside, really savory, really meaty. That is delicious. We're moving on to the chicken. So the chicken is butterflied, then pounded flat, I'm sure, with some mallet or maybe a bicycle helmet. I don't know. Very bizarre. All right, let's try out this chicken. Gotta say, chicken's a little dry because it's pounded flat. You can't really have juicy, meaty chicken when it's pounded flat like this. All right, we are moving on to the steak. So if all the meat is pounded flat in Colombia, I'm gonna double this up and make it look just a little bit thicker. We're gonna try this out. Here we go. Actually, even pounded flat, that steak is really juicy. There's some spices going on that they marinate this with that I really can't identify. I'm sure it's Colombian, but the steak, really good. All right, finally, we're gonna move on to the pork chop. The pork chop is a little thicker, a little bit more meaty, a little bit more juicy looking, not pounded flat, like a meat pancake. All right, let's give this a try. All right, now that is a solid pork chop. There is a really nice spice to it, and it does have a nice meaty, juicy flavor to it. All of the meats on this plate is a meat lover's dream, and I'm really glad that we made a pit stop here in Bogota to try out this really authentic, traditional dish of which I've already forgotten the name of. But from here, we are heading down to the state of Amazonas, to the city of Leticia, where we're going to be hanging out for the next week and a half. And when we get there, I'm going to be trying out some of the most authentic Amazonian food you can find. Foods that are regional and different than what you'll find here in Bogota or what we found over in Melgar.
Our next stop is the most southern tip of the country, to the town of Leticia in the region known as the Three Frontiers, where in a single day you can visit Colombia, Brazil, and Peru. And in a future video, I'll do just that, which will be the first time that I've ever had 3 meals in 3 countries in one day. This is a very different town than we've visited so far in this country. It's a pretty gritty port town on the Amazon River, and the only way to get here is by boat or by plane. And here it seems as if there's a different and unique restaurant on every street corner here. And this one, Acerdos Calipollos, is a place that greets you with a wall of rotisserie chicken that is said to be the best in the city. But I didn't come here for the chicken. There was something else on the menu that caught my eye. They say if you want to find a good restaurant when you're in a new city, find out where the locals eat and where the street musicians play for spare change, and you've found your spot. And if that's true, this is the place to be. A place that serves plate after plate of local comfort food. A place that feels just like home to the locals, and in no time, feels just the same to you. And even though the rotisserie chicken looked pretty good, I just had to try Colombia's version of barbecue. And so, I went with the ribs.
So right here we've got traditional Amazonian barbecued ribs. Didn't know there was such a thing until I got to this restaurant. There's barbecue all over the world. I assumed that it would be here in the Amazons, but take a look at this. It's just swimming in that barbecue sauce. This is pork ribs, and this is how they do barbecue here in the Amazon. I'm really spoiled with barbecue because I live in the United States, which arguably has the best barbecue in the world, except for that barbecue place we tried in Suriname. Check that video out right there. Perhaps right there, I don't know. But here in Colombia, this is how they do barbecue. We're gonna try this out. So to be objective about this, it's not the best barbecue that I've ever had. It's good, but the meat is kind of tough. It's a little overcooked. But again, here in the Amazons, this is how they do barbecue. To equate this with St. Louis style or Memphis style or any other style that you find in the United States really isn't doing this justice, because here in South Colombia, this is basically how barbecue is done. All right, so maybe the problem with this is that it just doesn't have enough of this barbecue sauce. So I'm gonna get a big helping of that barbecue sauce on my next bite, and we're gonna try this out and see if that may improve the flavor of these ribs. All right, let's try this out. So that barbecue sauce is actually kind of bland. There's no real spices to it. Being in Latin America,
You would think that the barbecue sauce would have a lot of spice and a lot of flavor to it. It tastes very similar to like a brown gravy with just a little hint of that barbecue flavor.
So from here, we are going to make Leticia our base camp for the next week and a half. And during that time, I'm going on a quest to find the most unique Amazonian food, from local restaurants to street food to the exotic markets that can be found here in Colombia, across the river in Peru, and just across the street in Brazil.
So guys, if you're hungry for more, check out that video right there. If you're starving for more, there's a playlist to check out right there. That's the Amazon River. I have no idea how I got here.